Thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you for being here to celebrate this wonderful day with me. Before I start, I just want to see you. I want to feel the energy of unity of St. Angelo. Each one of you co-create this space. You can feel it. I can see it. And I feel privileged to be able to be here and share this time with you. Friday night and Saturday, I was privileged to spend the time with your board of directors. And I don't know if you know how amazing they are, but I do want to let you know that I know how smart you are because you elected them. They bring unique gifts to this leadership team, and what I got from them was their intelligence, because it's important to figure things out. But even more so, I got their consciousness, their love, and their commitment for this community. You did good. So I don't know if I really have anything that I need to say after Gary did his sharing. He kind of said it for me. Surrendering. Yeah. I'm like Gary, that was not one of my favorite words. I didn't play football, but I did have a brother, and we fought a lot, like siblings often do. He was a little bit older, so he was a little bit stronger, so I was the one usually in defeat. And when I was defeated, I didn't jump for joy. I felt frustrated, and I felt humiliated. So waving the white flag was not something I would choose to do on purpose. But then one day, in a unity church similar to this, I heard a minister say, "Not thy will, not my will, but thy will be done." I'm like, what? What's she talking about? I've given up my will, or thought I had in different times before, and it never really worked out that well for me. I wasn't sure I wanted to let go of that control, to let go of those reins. I thought, maybe I need to start looking at surrender in a whole new way. Maybe come up with a different relationship. So if surrender wasn't about frustration and humiliation and defeat and having somebody more powerful over me, then what was it all about? What was surrender? What was the positive? Was there a positive side of it? So I did some research. I looked, and of course I read. And one of the people that I read was Amy Johnson, and she's from the Tiny Buddha. And what she said about it was, surrender literally means to quit fighting. Stop fighting with yourself. I don't know about you, but I kind of have that battle every once in a while. Stop fighting the universe and the natural flow of things. And stop pushing and resisting reality. Does it really do us any good when we do? It's never helped me any. And then she goes on to say, surrender means complete acceptance of what is. And I just want to make a clarification. Acceptance doesn't mean like. Acceptance doesn't mean loving what's happening. Acceptance is realizing it is what it is. Acceptance. So that's the first part. Complete acceptance of what is. The second part is faith that all is well. And it's the last part that's the kicker for me. Even without input from me. So complete acceptance. Faith that all is well. And I don't have to really do anything or put anything into it for that acceptance. It's again, part of that letting go of that control. So we're in this world of of change, right? Things are changing faster and faster, it seems, all the time. Yesterday we were talking about the old phones and laughing about the old party lines. Some of you may remember those. You could get on and other people would be talking. When I was really little, my brother and I thought it was really fun to get on and listen to my sister talking to her boyfriend. She didn't think it was so fun. But you know, in those days with that phone on the wall, never in my wildest imaginations did I think that I would be carrying around a phone that I could use to take photos. Times are changing. They're changing faster and faster. And some of those changes we welcome, and some are like this. We're just resisting. And it doesn't matter whether we welcome them or we resist them, they're still going to happen. And even when it's changes that we welcome, it seems like the ground under our feet is sometimes shifting. It feels like we have to struggle to keep our balance sometimes. A little over a year ago, Unity Worldwide Ministries moved from our old building to a building on grounds at Unity Village. And some of us were more excited about the move, and others were, especially those who had been there for a long, long time. They were used to coming to the same place. So there was, even though it was a move that we were looking forward to and we treasured in some ways, being able to be on grounds and see the fountains and feel that energy, but yet there was a change. So even when it's changes that we like, there's still that shift, and we need to get comfortable with it. And then there's the other changes, the ones that we'd rather not welcome. And changes can occur over 4 different ways. You know, it's the personal, the circumstantial, the intellectual, and the emotional. And sometimes it might be just one of them, and sometimes it might be all 4 of them. And some of those challenges can be pretty simple. Gary kind of used an example similar to the one I was going to use. And that is when you're driving in traffic and they're not quite behaving the way we want them to. Or as sometimes I'll mutter under my breath, where did you get your driver's license? In a Cracker Jack box? So I was doing some consulting work on the West Coast, and I was in this little town, Polsbo, which is on one of the islands in Puget Sound. And I was on the sidewalk. It was a beautiful sunshiny day, and it's it's smaller than San Angelo. So it's really small. And there's a main street. Cars were parked on both sides of the street. There's only 2 lanes. And there was somebody who didn't think the car in front of them was going fast enough. There was no way for that car in front of them to move. There was another car in front of them. There's no place to get off the road because there were people parked both sides, and yet that person behind was just laying on his horn. He was frustrated. He was resisting what is. Did it make any difference? No. It just had everybody looking at him wondering, take a chill pill. There's nowhere for him to go. So that's some of the little things that we can get or let get under our skin or bother us or kind of take the joy out of our day. But then there's the bigger things, the things that we might even consider a tragedy. Maybe they are, or maybe it's just such a big change that it feels that way, like retiring. I've talked to people, my husband, he just retired last July. And you have that schedule of what you're going to do and when you're going to get up and when you're going to go do this. And then all of a sudden you're not doing that anymore. I talked to a minister who retired, and she said she was in a grocery store on a Thursday afternoon and found herself bursting into tears. And it took her a minute to find out what was going on. And she said, Thursday afternoons was always when I wrote my spouse. So it was that change. And although she was looking forward to doing something different with her life, it still felt different, and it brought those tears. And then it's changes that are even more so. And those changes, when that pain is present, sometimes it's hard to really see the opportunity to surrender. So I'm going to share a personal story with you. A couple years ago, my sister passed. She was my oldest sister, and even though there was a 13-year difference between us, we were like that. So I went to be with her while she went through hospice, and I was named the executor of her estate. And after she passed, I'd talked to a lawyer, and she said, sure, when you get ready, just let me know. My schedule's wide open. And then when it was time and I had all the paperwork that I needed and I wanted to talk to her, her schedule was completely full. In just a couple of days, she filled up. And it seemed like everywhere I turned, there was this roadblock. And I was trying so hard to follow her guidance, what she wanted me to do, and really carry out her wishes. And it seemed like nothing was happening. Divine order wasn't on the horizon for me in that moment. I felt blocked and stuck everywhere I turned. So I do what I often do during times like that. I called my daughter. And I told her what was going on, and she goes, Mom, it sounds like you haven't released Amy yet. So I thought about that. You know, she usually gives me pretty good advice. So I took that into prayer and meditation, and I loved Amy, and I told her how much she meant to me in my life, and I was ready to release her to what was next for her, and just had a real love fest. And you know, after I came out of that meditation, I felt like this load had been lifted off my shoulders, and I felt such this feeling of peace. I finally had surrendered to what was. I quit fighting against it. Now, does that mean that I didn't still have my grief work to do? Did it mean that I still don't miss her? It's been a couple of years now, and I still miss her. She was one of my best friends. But after I did that, everything fell into place. Even finding a home for 2 or for 3 dogs. And I guess I found a home for all 3 because we kept the third one. Yeah. So being able to be present, the pain, and understanding that, but being able to surrender in the moment so that we can move forward. So when we get stuck like that, we're not allowing Spirit to move through and express. Many of us grew up hearing the Trinity as the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, or Holy Ghost. Charles Fillmore, the co-founder of Unity, has the Trinity as this way: mind, idea, expression. And yesterday, when I walked back in towards the children's area, I saw that on your wall. Each child is an idea in the mind of God. So the mind is that one presence, that one power, that allness of everything. And the expression is each one of us. I mean, the idea is each one of us. Just as Jesus taught, that each one of us is that expression of the Christ in this world. Jesus taught that and demonstrated, and as Gary said earlier, told us that the things that we could do could be even greater than the things that Jesus did. And we do that by breathing into manifestation, by co-creating with that Spirit. So in the Bible, Spirit is defined different ways. One way is the activity or the action of God. It's also defined as ruach, which is breath. And another place, it's defined as wind. And all 3 of those have something in common. And that is that it's invisible to the human eye, but it's powerful. And anyone who lives in tornado or hurricane country knows how powerful that wind can be. And the power of God is even more than that. But what happens when we're hanging on so tightly? We're not letting that breath come through to express. We're not allowing ourselves to manifest anything new. We're stuck in that place. And it's not until we get that place of surrender and we take that deep breath and let it go that we can move on to something new, that we can co-create something new in our life. Anne gave me a great example yesterday. It's a story about a bear from her book, A Year with Emmett Fox. And the story goes like this. There were some hunters out hunting, and they had a fire going and the kettle on it, and the kettle was boiling water, and something distracted them and called them away. And they left the campsite. And after they had left it, a bear came and saw that kettle, thinking it was something to eat or whatever, and grabbed it, and of course it was hot. And so it burnt the bear. So the bear hugged it tight, because that's its defense. Hold on tighter. And of course, the tighter the bear held on, the more it burned. And that's the way with us, the more we hold on, the tighter we hold on, sometimes the more we lock ourselves into that pain in the moment. Take a deep breath. Take that deep breath. So the bear showed us that it's a lot better to not hold on, to release and let go. So if we really believe that, if we think that resisting stops us from moving on or keeps us trapped inside emotional pain and longing, then isn't it better to surrender? To surrender and let go? It's a question. Is it better to surrender and let go? Okay, I got a nod. Another nod.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Yes.
Right. Yeah, it's better to surrender. Okay, so if it's better to surrender, how do we do that? Well, there's 5 steps. One for each finger. And one step is self-awareness. When am I holding on? And then once we understand that, we can look at, why am I holding on? What am I afraid will happen if I let go? Am I afraid I'm going to forget her if I don't hold on so tightly? What is it that's behind that has me hold on so tightly? And then to let go, to really be able to let go, is to trust. As a unity counselor at a summer camp on Sisyphus, and all of us got together ahead of time, the leaders of it, to do some team building and all of that. And there were some logs. And when I'm talking about logs, I'm not talking about the ones that you put in your fireplace to burn, but huge logs that were taller than me. And our trust exercise was to climb up on this log and stand and fall backwards, trusting that the rest of the team would catch you. That is trust. And sometimes it takes trust that big to really just let go. So after trust, we have a choice. Surrendering isn't forced on us. Sometimes circumstances happen that we don't have control over, but how we relate to them, we have that choice. We have a choice of surrendering and letting go, or to continue holding on. So if we make that choice to let go, then it is taking that breath. So that's that last one. To remember the breath and to deep breathe. Just taking that deep breath and releasing it. And so I invite you, I challenge you that any challenge that you might face in the days and weeks to come, to surrender to that higher power, to that one presence and that one power that expresses in, through, and as each one of you. In fact, I want to get you started. Let's practice it right now. I want you to take in that deep breath, breathe in, and then blow it out. Let's do it again. Breathe in. Breathe out. One more time. That deep breath in. And let it go. And then together, 3 times we're going to say, I let go, I let God. Together, I let go, I let God. I let go, I let God. I let go, I let God. Thank you. Blessings and God bless and have